Have you been waking up feeling like a stranger in your own skin? Like the life you built no longer fits who you're becoming? Your friends say you've changed. Your family looks at you with concern. Even you don't recognize the person staring back from the mirror. The conversations feel hollow. The goals feel meaningless. And deep down, something whispers, there has to be more than this. What if I told you this isn't a breakdown? What if this chaos, this disconnection, this feeling like your entire world is crumbling, is actually your soul breaking free? Carl Jung discovered that there are 9 unmistakable signs of spiritual awakening, signs that most people mistake for crisis, when they're actually sacred transformation. If you're seeing these signs in your life right now, you're not losing yourself. You're meeting yourself for the first time. And once you understand what's really happening, everything changes. Sign 1. The awakening pain. The first sign hits you like a wave you never saw coming. It's not the gentle awakening you see in movies. It's raw. It's disorienting. It hurts. Jung called this the emergence of the shadow. Not evil, but unacknowledged truth. And when that truth starts rising to the surface, it brings everything with it. Old wounds, buried emotions, parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. You might find yourself crying in your car after a normal day at work, or feeling inexplicably angry at conversations that used to roll off your back. Your mind feels like it's being pulled in opposite directions, and nothing feels familiar anymore. Here's what's really happening. Your unconscious mind is demanding your attention. It's been storing everything you've suppressed, every emotion you couldn't feel, every truth you weren't ready to face. And now, it's all coming up at once. This isn't emotional instability. This is emotional archaeology. You're not falling apart. You're digging up what was buried so you can finally heal it. Jung believed this pain is sacred. It's the birth canal of consciousness. And if you're feeling it right now, it means something deep inside you is ready to be born. But the pain is just the beginning. Sign 2. When no one understands you anymore. Then comes the isolation, and it's brutal. The people who used to get you don't anymore. Your closest friends start feeling like strangers. Your family looks at you with confusion. Even your partner might say, I don't recognize you anymore. And the worst part? They're not wrong. You've stepped outside the invisible rules that bind society together. You can't laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You can't pretend to care about gossip. Small talk feels like suffocation, and suddenly you're the odd one out in every room. But here's what Jung understood that most people don't. This isolation isn't punishment, it's initiation. Every great spiritual awakening begins with separation. Jesus went into the desert. Buddha sat alone under a tree. Moses wandered through the wilderness. Why? Because truth doesn't reveal itself in crowds. It whispers in silence. When no one understands you anymore, it forces you to understand yourself. You stop looking for validation in other people's eyes and start listening to the voice inside your own heart. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it hurts. But this sacred isolation is where your soul learns to speak. And once you hear that voice, you'll never need the crowd's approval again. The loneliness is temporary, but the truth you discover in it, that's eternal. Yet even as you embrace this solitude, something else begins to crack. Sign 3. You can't pretend anymore. There comes a moment when the mask becomes too heavy to wear. You try to put on the performance, play the role, be who everyone expects you to be. But your body rebels. Your voice shakes when you lie. Your smile feels like it might crack your face. The persona, that carefully crafted image you've spent years building, starts to crumble. And it's terrifying because that persona has been your protection, your way of surviving in the world. You might find yourself saying things you never used to say, walking away from situations you used to tolerate, setting boundaries you never had the courage to set before. People call you difficult, selfish, or dramatic. Let them. Jung knew that the persona is necessary for functioning in society, but deadly when it becomes your identity. When you can't pretend anymore, it's not because you're broken. It's because something real inside you is demanding to be seen. The false self is dying. And that death feels like annihilation because you've confused the mask with your face for so long. But underneath that crumbling persona, something magnificent is stirring. Your authentic self, the one that doesn't need approval, doesn't perform for applause, doesn't shrink to make others comfortable, is finally ready to emerge. You're not losing yourself. You're meeting yourself for the first time. And as this authentic self awakens, the universe begins to respond in the most mysterious ways. Sign 4. Synchronicities begin. This is where things get strange and beautiful. You start seeing the same numbers everywhere, on clocks, receipts, license plates. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they call you the next day. A book falls off a shelf, and inside you find the exact answer to a question you've been carrying in your heart. Most people call these coincidences. Jung called them synchronicities, meaningful connections between your inner world and outer reality. When your soul awakens, it doesn't happen in isolation. The entire universe seems to conspire in your favor. Messages appear exactly when you need them. Doors open at precisely the right moment. Even obstacles show up with perfect timing to redirect you toward your truth. You might dream of a red cardinal, then see one outside your window the next morning. You might write a question in your journal, then hear the answer in a stranger's conversation at the coffee shop. This isn't wishful thinking or confirmation bias. This is your psyche coming into alignment with something larger than itself. Jung believed there's an invisible intelligence orchestrating these events, not to control your life, but to support your awakening. The more you trust these signs, the more they appear. The more you follow their guidance, the more aligned your life becomes. You're not going crazy, you're going conscious. And consciousness, Jung discovered, is far more connected to the fabric of reality than we ever imagined. But synchronicities are just the external confirmation of something profound happening internally. Sign 5. Your intuition becomes your compass. Something fundamental shifts in how you navigate the world. Logic is still important, but it's no longer your only guide. A deeper knowing emerges. Quiet, certain, undeniable. You walk into a room and immediately sense the energy. You meet someone new and instantly know whether they're trustworthy. You're offered an opportunity that looks perfect on paper, but something inside you whispers, "This isn't for you." And you start listening to that whisper. Jung called this the intuitive function, your direct line to the unconscious wisdom that exists beyond rational thought. It doesn't speak in arguments or explanations. It speaks in feelings, images, and sudden knowings that bypass the mind entirely. People around you might say you're being impractical, emotional, or naive, but you've learned to trust this inner compass more than their opinions. Because every time you've followed it, even when it didn't make sense, it led you exactly where you needed to go. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What feels true?" You stop seeking advice from everyone else and start consulting the wisdom that lives inside you. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. You're finally learning to hear the voice of your soul. And that voice has been waiting your entire life to guide you home. Sign 6. A deep hunger for meaning. The things that used to satisfy you don't anymore. You scroll through social media and feel nothing. You watch your favorite show and it feels hollow. You achieve a goal you've worked toward for months, and instead of joy, you feel empty. This isn't depression. This is your soul outgrowing the shallow end of life. Jung believed humans have an innate drive toward meaning. Not just pleasure, not just success, but psychological and spiritual significance. And once this hunger awakens in you, nothing else will satisfy it. You find yourself asking questions you've never asked before. Why am I here? What is my soul trying to express? Is there something I meant to contribute that I haven't dared to face? These aren't signs of a midlife crisis. They're signs of a soul crisis, in the best possible way. Your inner being is refusing to settle for a life that looks good on the outside, but feels dead on the inside. You start gravitating toward wisdom instead of entertainment, philosophy instead of gossip, depth instead of distraction, not because you're trying to be intellectual, but because your soul is starving for substance. The false gods you once worshipped, status, approval, material success, lose their power over you. And in their place, something sacred begins to emerge. The hunger for a life that matters, not just to others, but to the deepest part of yourself. This hunger will lead you places you never expected to go. Sign 7. Dreams become a mysterious guide. Your nights transform into something otherworldly. Dreams become more vivid, more symbolic, more emotionally charged than they've ever been. You wake up with fragments that feel important. A face, a symbol, a phrase that echoes through your day. Jung considered dreams the royal road to the unconscious, and during awakening, that road becomes a highway. Your sleeping mind begins to process the transformation happening in your waking life, offering symbols, warnings, and guidance through imagery your conscious mind couldn't create. You might dream of houses with hidden rooms, representing undiscovered parts of yourself, or falling, symbolizing the ego's loss of control, or being chased by a shadow figure that represents everything you've been running from. Even nightmares take on new meaning. They're not punishments, they're invitations. Your psyche is saying, look at this, face this, integrate this. The things you fear in dreams are often the very things you need to embrace to become whole. You start keeping a dream journal, not because someone told you to, but because ignoring these messages feels like ignoring your own soul. The boundary between dreaming and waking begins to blur as both realities inform each other. Your dreams become a compass, pointing you toward aspects of yourself that need attention, healing, or expression. And trusting their guidance becomes as natural as trusting your own heartbeat. But perhaps the most challenging sign is still to come. Sign 8. You fear losing things, but keep going. This might be the hardest part of the journey. You know that continuing on this path might cost you everything familiar. Your relationships might change, your career might need to shift, your entire life structure might need to be rebuilt from the ground up. And you're terrified. But you keep going anyway. This is spiritual courage in its purest form. Jung called it the willingness to sacrifice the known for the unknown, the comfortable for the authentic, the safe for the true. You might lose friends who can't understand your transformation. You might have to leave environments that demand your silence. You might need to walk away from opportunities that look good, but feel wrong. Each step forward feels like walking off a cliff. But something deeper than fear propels you forward. Not because you're reckless, but because staying in the old life has become more painful than the uncertainty of the new one. You're learning that real courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and choosing growth anyway. It's trusting that what you're moving toward is more valuable than what you're leaving behind. This willingness to lose everything in service of your soul's truth is perhaps the most profound sign that you're on the right path, because only someone who has touched something eternal would be willing to sacrifice everything temporal. And it's in this space of ultimate vulnerability that the final sign reveals itself. Sign 9. You begin to sense something greater. The final sign is the most mysterious and the most profound. You begin to sense a presence, not outside you, but within you. Something ancient, something whole, something infinitely wise that has been waiting your entire life to be recognized. This isn't your ego. This isn't your personality. This is what Jung called the self with a capital S, the organizing principle of your entire being. The part of you that was never broken, never lost, never confused. Your decisions begin to flow from this deeper place. You stop asking what others want from you and start asking what this greater intelligence wants to express through you. You feel guided not by external pressures, but by internal alignment. You begin to experience moments of profound peace, even in the midst of chaos, glimpses of connection to something vast and sacred, a knowing that you are both a drop in the ocean and the ocean in the drop. This doesn't make you special. It makes you human in the fullest sense. Jung believed this connection to the self is the birthright of every person willing to undertake the journey of individuation. You start to trust the timing of your life in a way you never could before. Even setbacks feel purposeful. Even delays feel divinely orchestrated. You're no longer fighting against life. You're dancing with it. And in this dance, you discover something that changes everything. You are never separate from the sacred. You are the sacred, expressing itself as this unique, irreplaceable human experience. If you recognize yourself in these 9 signs, understand this. You are not having a breakdown, you are having a breakthrough. You are not losing your mind, you are finding your soul. Jung spent his life proving that this journey, from unconsciousness to consciousness, from ego to self, from surviving to thriving, is not just possible, but necessary. It's the most important work any human being can undertake. The path is not easy. It demands everything of you. But what it gives back is immeasurable. A life lived in truth, alignment, and profound meaning. You are not alone on this journey. Every soul that has ever awakened has walked through these same initiations. You are part of an ancient lineage of human beings, brave enough to choose growth over comfort, truth over convenience, authenticity over approval. As Jung himself said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your soul is rising. Trust the process. Trust the pain. Trust the path. Because on the other side of this transformation isn't just a better life. It's your real life. The one you came here to live. If these signs resonated with you, you're part of a growing community of souls awakening to their truth. Consider subscribing to stay connected as we explore these deeper mysteries together. And remember, you're not lost, you're awakening.